Thanks again also for the invitation. I'm sorry I cannot be there. But as you said, I'm Minister of Finance and also Minister of Trade. So these are pretty busy days for us. So let me start actually where I left it last time when we met in September, as you just said, which is basically this quote that many said that the European Union is a herbivore in a world of carnivores. And if you remember well, what I said is that we should become omnivores. That's the way forward in terms of the race, of the competitiveness race that we're living. And that meant that we had to actually reinforce our own DNA, our own values and the pillars that actually sustain the European Union. And I mentioned three of them, and it's actually even more valid today. I mentioned that we needed to remain open, that we needed to actually keep thinking about sustainability as a key element, not only in terms of the positive externalities that it brings, but also in terms of competitiveness. And the third element was a social DNA or welfare state as a key pillar also of what we are and for what we stand or what we stand for. And as I said, all of them seem to be actually put in question today. So the more reason for us to actually prove that we can be omnivores, that we can grow, that we can become competitive without actually losing our own values. And let me try to be quick in articulating, therefore, what the response should be to current challenges at the EU. Because it has to be an EU-level response. We need a united front. I guess the word united has come out a few times already today. So to me, two main ways forward. So the first one, you just mentioned it, is accelerating our integration. We need to accelerate the integration of the EU, including, of course, the economic security agenda. I will say a few more on this in a minute. And the second vector is that we need to stay the course on being a reliable, a stable, and a trustworthy partner. We need to send a clear message to everyone around the world that Europe, the European Union, is actually open for business. That has to be very clear for everyone. But let me go to the first element, which is the integration element. We have a lot of homework, a lot of to-dos internally, and actually we're lucky because we have a clear roadmap. Enrico, we have two roadmaps. And as everyone knows, all roadmaps lead to Rome in this case, or to Italy. And basically, what we need at this point, having these roadmaps, both your report and also Draghi's report, is grinta. So we need actually the energy to bring those roadmaps, to bring those recommendations to life, as we did in COVID. That's what we need at this point. And this road, or the road towards actually putting those recommendations into place, calls, as I just said, for energy and for unity. And we know that if there is a bottleneck at the EU level to take decisions, is our governance. We are actually sometimes limited, as you just said, by a slow governance in all areas. And we need to actually try to remove this bottleneck. And there are two ways, of course, having a fast track on those priorities at the EU level. And I think the Commission is really putting all the effort in terms of bringing all these big agendas forward with an accelerated somehow effort over the past few months. And we're very grateful for that. And we should all support this high speed on the main areas of work. We can also go into the details, but we will need also to think a bit out of the box. And I think the coalition of the willing setup is a proper one going forward. And you just mentioned, and I'm grateful for that, our competitiveness lab option. And what we wanted is to put on the table a way for a few countries willing to push ahead with an integration proposal within initially the Savings and Investment Union, a way for them to actually do it in combination, in collaboration with the European Commission, is a sort of a sandbox where actually countries can engage into, from day one, putting an initiative forward and trying to integrate amongst them. That actually means that we will try to integrate ourselves bottom up and not only top down. bringing the fragmentation down. Maybe sometimes it's not easy to bring it down from 27 to 1 directly, and we have to proceed in steps. And instead of going directly from 27 to 1, we need to find groups of countries willing to integrate. As you said, maybe the first step would be to go to 15 member states willing to integrate together on a specific project. We have a few of them already launched. One of them is this common investment product or label for investment products that we want to develop at the EU level. Another one could be harmonizing the ratings methodology for SMEs so that they can access financing and at a lower cost through different EU domestic markets. So there are a few elements that are on the table now. We're actually making progress. There was a very good meeting a few weeks ago, just prior to the Eurogroup meeting, where actually Andre was there as well and a few other colleagues launching this initiative, which I think has a lot of avenue going forward. And I'm actually very optimistic on how this can help. This can be another piece helping our way forward in terms of integration. And I was glad to see in the questions that you posed before that integrating the savings and investment union or the financial markets was number one priority within the room. I'm not sure that the sample in the room is a representative sample of the whole population, but in any case, it's good to see that the financial markets are the priority, and so that we're hitting the right priority with the competitiveness lab. But as I said, we need to go ahead with integration. And we need to do it also when we talk about not only the internal market, but about the security agenda or security and defense agenda with an element of solidarity and with the European Union chapeau always. We're talking about common public goods, and these common public goods, they need the European approach. They need the joint financing element when we talk about also security and defense. And they need it, as we did in COVID, with the solidarity component. We know that it's a common public good, and the impact at this point is asymmetric. It will be felt, so the need for investment will be felt mostly via the eastern border. So we need to engage in this solidarity element also going forward. Coordination and enough financing to be able to finance all these agendas. So more Europe is my main point on the integration and security here. And then the second element, as I just mentioned, is of course the Europe or European Union remaining open for business, and this is key. So we need to keep on betting for the multilateral agenda, for a rules-based order, but we also, I think this is not, we're not today in 2005, it's 2025, and we need to be aware of the events that are going on. So we need not being naive at this point. Of course, starting with a positive agenda. And here, I think it's very clear at this point that we need to strengthen our relationship with our main partners and we need to be looking for more strategic partners. And on this, let me just mention one key area where we should also put the fast track mode in the next few months, which is a ratification of the Mercosur agreement. This is going to be key not only for security, but also for our trade going forward to also reduce or increase, our resilience in terms of trade flows in looking for more reliable partners around the world and strategic partners as well. And of course, this strengthening relationship with our main trading partners includes the US. When you look at the ties between the US and the European Union, this is the strongest economic and trade relationship in the world. Actually, each and every day, we have 4.4 billion euros crossing the Atlantic. And I think this is a very clear message. This is what we have to protect. And this is the mode in which we've been from the European Commission since day one, calling for a negotiated solution. We've been doing it, and we still are calling for a negotiated solution. I think this is the main point at this stage. And the main argument behind calling for a negotiated solution is that increase in tariffs or increase in protectionism is a lose-lose race. And we just need to look at the past 2 days market's reaction, which I think is proving this argument right. I'm sure you all have seen figures about the impact of the fall in markets over the past 2 days. It's actually, if I'm not wrong, the 5th worst 2-day window in stocks since 1945. I think this speaks out very clearly of what we're seeing today and to what extent engaging in this tariff race is lose-lose and is a lost race already for all of us. So again, first, of course, being prudent, engaging with the US constructively. I think they should be at the forefront of any policy engagement now. But, and this is a clear also message, we should not be naive and we should be ready to use the tools that are at our disposal from the EU level. Remember that many of those measures that the US has announced are already also in place. Actually, on the 5th, which is today, some of those tariffs were coming into place. On the 9th, we will have the rest of them. But there were already other tariffs that were put into place, including, for example, on steel and aluminium. So we need to live and act according to this reality as well. And that leads me to my third point on this trade engagement, which is that we need to protect our citizens. We need to protect the firms and the industries that might be affected by these trade conflict, while we engage, as I said, in trying to come to a negotiated solution. We need to put in place a safety net so that our industries, our companies, our workers are not affected by this. And this is what we've done very quickly in Spain, actually reacting basically 12 hours after the President Trump's speech on the 2nd of April, putting in place a safety net, as we did with COVID, to try and avoid any short-term damage while everything is hopefully being negotiated and agreed with our partners, with our US partners, as I said, hopefully, or while we actually, all of us at the EU level, engage or try to find another strategic solution using, as we said, all the tools that are at our disposal. We need to keep the EU dimension. We need to remain united, but also let's not forget that we need European citizens to understand and feel that the European Union is protecting them. I think this is key, not to lose also the minds of our citizens in terms of, and that was actually nice to see your first question, in terms of how much they understand that the European Union is now their main shelter, their main umbrella. And that's a homework for all of us. And I hope that we will be able to maintain this united front also going forward. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much, Enrico.